So you have anxiety? You don't need to let it hold you back. This episode will hopefully inspire you how to achieve against your anxiety. And of course, before we get into it, tap that little like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go.
It's always nice for a wee Friday or any day pick me up, right? I feel like you're always sprucing up my LinkedIn timeline with all your energy and just confidence and all your achievements. And for anyone who doesn't know who you are,
My name is Nate McCauley. I am a videographer for Purple Dot Media, and I do promotional videos for businesses, all kinds of videos. I do retail, I do construction, just any sort of videos for social media. And I also have a workshop on mobile movie making, and I teach people about video confidence as well. So a bit of everything, all to do with video.
yeah, so you're very much like a creator and very creative person and have your finger in a lot of pies, I would say.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I do enjoy anything to do with anything creative, anything to do with video, and I do like these kind of things where, I'm discussing things like the bigger picture. I like talking about imposter syndrome. I like talking about, things that people are faced with in business and, in life.
Yeah, like actual sort of struggles and maybe how you've been through something and you've learned that someone else can lead from. So I think today we were really going to focus on, because I think you opened up to me in response to maybe one of my posts, and I suppose it was a message I was really surprised to see, because I was like, goodness, I see this girl and your message was so lovely, and then you shared something maybe that I would never have expected. And, a lot of people would never sort of, I don't know, I think you just see people like showing up and you never think they have any struggles themselves, but like that we all, go through things. But I guess we were going to maybe touch on like how to achieve against anxiety, because I have sort of shared a lot of my own personal sort of struggles through anxiety, and I thought it might be interesting for everyone to hear, about you and how that's shown up for you in your life, and how you've really not let that hold you back, but really fuel you towards all the achievements you have accomplished.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's so easy to appear really confident and be like, I get really, really passionate about like helping others be confident. So when I'm thinking this message is so important, I have to make sure everyone else feels confident, I kind of forget about myself. I feel like the second I get into my own head and the second I think, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this is when I start to get nervous. So I find that like helping others and trying to be other-centered, even if I'm on stage to like 400 people, I will look at everyone's face individually because I'm trying to get into their world. But the second I get into my own head, the second I start thinking like, oh my God, I'm in front of all these people, that's when I start to panic.
I really do think though there's a lot in that helping others helps you. And I feel like that's, what a lot of what both of us do, that we really just love helping others. But I think in a way, sometimes you can be helping others so much to maybe the expense of actually honoring and, helping yourself whenever you sort of need to. And actually, checking in and reminding yourself on all the things you're teaching others. Like, do I actually have that for me sometimes?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like sometimes I have to take a step back and so it always takes someone else, like it's usually a family member or my fiance or someone else will tell me when I'm anxious, because I feel like I can't see it. I'm like living it and I'm just buzzing around the kitchen, and it's not until they're like, you're really hyper, like you're wired today, like what's going on? And they do point it out, because it is pretty obvious. Like it's obvious to them, but it's just not. I just think, oh no,
you're just living and buzzing about like as you are, and then you're not even aware that maybe you're not giving yourself that time or just calming down for a second. I suppose like that's a real advantage of you having people around you then, because your life could be very different if you were left all alone.
Yeah, and I also, before I went to Australia, I had CBT for flying there. So I'd like, this is the thing. I like book things that terrify me and then figure out how I'm going to do it. So I had like booked that I was going to go to Australia, but I was absolutely terrified of planes, and I still am, but I still go to countries. So I did have CBT for being able to get on the plane. And like working out all the different thoughts that I would, that would probably occur. And I'm one of those people that genuinely will convince myself I smell smoke when there is no smell of smoke. Like my senses just start just seeing things. I don't know. So, yeah, so I had that, which really helped as well. But yeah, like I find CBT is good because it looks at the behavior and it looks at your thoughts and things like that.
It's your cognition, thoughts, behavior, how they all link together, and how you can really address each one to make that, a beautiful actual relationship and them all work together in the best way. And I actually, CBT has really helped me in the past as well. I not so much in terms of checking things, but we got our house broken into, so I needed CBT for me to be able to actually stay in the house on my own. I couldn't even go upstairs on my own at one stage. I was completely petrified. After that, it sort of is like a traumatic experience, but that you didn't have a traumatic experience that led to you being, so you just sort of, this has just been the way that you've known to be, and you just
like the only experience I can think of, and it doesn't even make any sense, was I was terrified of the fire alarm in school when I was 7, and every time the fire alarm went off, like the alarm for break, the alarm for lunch,
that was only the fire.
Yeah, every time that went off, I used to hyperventilate. But at 7, teacher was like, what's going on? She's crying. We're just going to have to send her home. And this went on for weeks. Like I was absolutely terrified of the fire alarm. But it was like every time it went off, I thought the school was on fire, like every single time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the earliest memory I can think of. But like there's nothing before that. I don't know why I thought that. And then I suppose that was like, I had to go to school. So that was just years of like every hour or two, I would have this adrenaline rush because the alarm would go off again. And yeah, that's like my earliest memory, but I just don't know why I was so terrified of the alarm. Like maybe someone told me. I think that
I think, it is maybe, I can understand it from thinking, that was your body, like sort of like getting you, in that fight or flight, this is danger, so you being so young and, like I can imagine, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's the potential that we could be on fire. It is quite reasonable whenever you think about it, like that it would sort of send your body into shock from, just living normally and then thinking, oh my goodness, there could be a fire. Like there's so many questions, like what about everyone else? What about my family? And at such a young age, it can be hard to actually come to terms with what do I do here? Panic.
Yeah, do you know what? Now I think about it, we had a fire drill. Oh my God, I think I've got it now. We had a fire drill and this girl came in and was told to act. She came in and she was like, there's a fire, the school's on fire, the school's on fire. And she was told by the teachers to like act it out to try and make the students think that there was a fire.
Right.
So like I can remember that. So then from that moment on, I was about 7. It was about P3.
She has set the fear of God into you then.
So every time the alarm went off, I was like, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is a real alarm. Like maybe this is the fire. So yeah.
What they thought was such like a helpful thing for students and all, here it was like actually setting you up into like period of trauma.
That's so mad. I've never remembered that before. In all of the CBT sessions, I have never remembered that they got that girl to act that out. That makes so much sense now.
No, we've had absolute epiphanies this Friday.
That's so mad. Because I can remember my mum being really annoyed that they had a girl run around acting terrified. Oh, that's so mad. That's crazy. Wow. So like I was talking to my friend and she said to me, do you ever think that if you were in a relationship with yourself, would you allow your other half to speak to you that way? And when I thought of it like that, I was
Such
like,
an empowering thing to think of. Like, really, say,
yeah,
because a lot of the times, like, what we're actually saying to ourselves, we don't physically say out loud, right? So whenever you're around people, they're not hearing all the mental chatter that you're saying to yourself on a daily basis. But say we actually were able to extract those thoughts, put them on an audio tape and listen back to them, like, would you be happy? Would you be happy if those words were played to your child, to your best friend? I think that's really an
yeah,
important thing to think about. And
yeah.
actually, but catching yourself and really being mindful of what you are saying to yourself, because those thoughts, they become your life.
Yeah, and it's another thing that I find really encouraging, and I know this one is like, I don't know, sometimes when I say it out loud, it doesn't sound encouraging, but it really is to me. But
Yeah.
I know my dad always says to me, like, who's going to be talking about this moment in 100 years?
Yeah.
And like, I'm kind of like, well, nobody. And then I'm like, no,
It
but what
puts
if
it
there?
in, like, it takes a back seat and sort of sees the bigger perspective. Like, if
Yeah,
you're really
yeah,
intensely focusing on
mhm,
like this t-shirt or something, or
yeah.
like, this is the biggest decision ever, or and really thinking like, this is so minor, like, we are a
Yeah, it
dot
makes
on
things
this
like
earth.
insignificant. It takes its significance because I make everything so significant. And I know that when I was learning how to drive, I failed my driving test the first 2 times because I made it so significant that I lost the feeling in my legs. Like I was that
Yeah.
anxious that they were like pins and needles. I kept stalling because I'd like no energy in my legs.
Oh.
So then the third time, uh like my dad said it so brutally. He was like, Neve, you and that driving instructor are going to die someday. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And I like got in the car and I passed because I just sort of thought, we're both going to die someday and you're not even going to care because you're going to be dead as well. Like it was
Oh
just,
my goodness, like, that actually really
yeah,
relieved your anxiety and give
it
you a
did.
sense of just like, we're both going to die, so what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, it was just kind of like, you're not going to remember this moment and neither am I. So
That is actually incredible, though. That something so simple and something
mhm,
that just seems like, a hilarious comment can actually, really put things into like the grand scheme of things and think, oh, do you know what? Like, life's really not that serious.
yeah, and it's always kind of I think like that whole thing, and like my dad does say that a lot. I think it's like he knows it works on me, so he constantly is like, we're
Yeah.
all gonna die someday, so don't worry.
It's a
But I
nice
think
way to, make light of a serious situation and something that's really difficult for you, because it can just give you a laugh at yourself.
yeah, but it really makes me kind of see myself as like small and insignificant. And I know that that sounds really bad, but for someone that makes things so significant in life, that is like the perfect thing to
Yeah.
hear.
It can be bad in some instances, like, you don't want to be small and insignificant in life altogether, and in business, like, that you're showing up, but that for things that actually you're making,
Yeah.
much more of an issue than they need to be, then that is really helpful.
And I think for me, seeing things as small and insignificant, and things that like don't have any meaning, I'm like, oh well, then that makes me like free to put whatever meaning into it I want. That means I can like start from scratch. It's like a clean slate. I can make it significant. I don't have to, like, it doesn't really matter. It's
Yeah.
like I feel that
Like, you have the
yeah.
power.
Yeah, and I feel like, going up on stage, I'm like, okay, so I'm not making this significant and this is all meaningless. So what meaning do I want to put into this? And I usually think, okay, I want to be other centered, I want to be connected. And I like create what meaning I want to put into the event. And be really present to those key things that I want before I get up on stage.
Yeah.
And I think if it wasn't for my OCD, I wouldn't intentionally set intentions for
That's yeah. Yeah.
So I have to like put aside everything and start from scratch and like have an intention for my talk. And I think that is strength, because I have to get out of my head. I
Massive.
have to wipe
and
it.
you know, especially the public speaking is, I think, one of the biggest fears in the world of actual people, of, you know, things that they would love to do, but they're completely and utterly terrified. So the fact that, you know, you're telling me you have OCD and anxiety, whether, you know, they're currently present in your reality as they have maybe been more previously or whatever, that you have actually done what, you know, so many people have been terrified to do, and that you continue to do that despite having, you know, struggles with anxiety, that you can still do that and achieve that. And how, like, that is really, really inspiring for others.
Thanks so much. Because
and for yourself,
like
you know,
when I
to
think
give
back, yeah, like, I mean, it was around 2017, 2018, I was having like full-blown anxiety attacks thinking about talking in front of 5 people.
yeah, and then you're going and talking in front of that times hundreds.
Yeah, I like built it up. I was like, if I can do 5, I can do 10, and if I can do 10, I can do like 11. Like, I would say.
So you did have a real graduated approach into it.
Yeah, I like had to gradually kind of ease myself into it. And it was one of those things where I was like, right, okay, now we're going to try 40, and then now we're going to jump to 60. And then I did an event, because, you know, when I was talking in front of 50, I remember I talked in front of 50, and the woman said to me, I would love for you to speak at an event. There's going to be 250 people. And I said to her, I'm not sure if I can jump to 250. And I turned down the event. But then within about a year and a half, I had now jumped to 400, but it was like a gradual thing for me. Like, I had to gradually just take it on 10 at a time.
Yeah. It was that idea of going from like 50 to 250 that you were like, no, I can't do that right now for myself. And that's, you know, completely within your rights to know what you're actually capable of, and, you know, to go at your own pace and not compare yourself to what others can do, and to really just.
Yeah. And I think that now, even though it's been like a year and a half since I've even talked at an event, I know my number is 400. I'm like, right, we can take off from there. Like, that's your number. So it doesn't matter how much time goes by. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I will be extremely anxious because I haven't done it in a long time, but that's my number. So you can start from there.
So would you advise then, for anyone else that would maybe, like, if public speaking would be something that they would love, you know, to dream of doing, that to just start small and to work their way up, like that is a really helpful tool?
Yeah, definitely, because I know that it allows
it isn't easy.
Well, see, it was gradually getting out of my own head, because like, you have to really notice when you're talking in front of 10 people, those first 10 people, that's when you become present to all the thoughts running you. So it's like, I'm not good enough. They're going to think what I'm talking about isn't important. I was stuttering. I was constantly having to drink water. My mouth was so dry. And you just start to notice all the tiny things that take over. So then, you know, the next time when you have, say, like maybe 11 people, or maybe you have 10 again, or maybe you move up to 20, you're a bit more aware of how your body reacts. You're a bit more aware of the thoughts that are going to come. You know, you're prepared. So I think it's not until you try it with, say, 5 or 10 people that you will know, because everyone will have different reactions, you know.
You can't predict how, like, before it, I'm sure, you know, you have 101 thoughts, like, oh my goodness, what if I forget everything? You know, you have so many things that could go wrong and worst case scenarios, but you're never going to actually know how it is for you unless you do it. And I've heard, like, I don't know whether you've heard this, that if you're pre-consumed by what's going to happen and you're anxious about doing something, you're actually suffering twice, because you're suffering all the time you're worried about it beforehand and actually doing it. So, you may as well just suffer the once and learn, like actually not even see it as a suffering, but a learning experience, and doing something that's going to be a massive achievement. You're not going to regret it.
And there is 100%, and this is with everything I do, there is way more fear in anticipation than there is in doing the actual thing.
Always.
Like, the anticipation is unbearable, but when you're actually in it, like, I always think you're built to survive situations.
Yeah.
So like, if you're put in a situation where you're like, okay, I have to talk, I have to do this talk, you're going to like go into the zone and you're going to do it. But you're not really built to deal with anticipation, because there's no action there. You can't actually do anything to get rid of that feeling. It's just there. You're just like, I have to do that in 2 days, or I have to do that in 3 days, and it's just, there's no way of coping with that.
I know, it really is though, like, and just trying your best and knowing that your best is always good enough, and that, not seeing things as, you were saying about like having, like struggling to make decisions, and it needs to be the right one, that just actually having faith and trust in yourself that no matter what you decide, like that is the right decision for what you needed to do right then. And like, you could never sort of feel regretful or wish things would have been a different way, because everything happens for a reason. And just really, I guess making life less serious. I love what your dad just has did, really like just stepping back and seeing the bigger picture of things can really be so helpful.
Yeah, and I think I'm really learning how to choose. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I choose this t-shirt. And it's not even like, but why do you choose that t-shirt? And tell me reasons. There's no reasons. I choose it because I choose it. That's it. I'm choosing that.
But I'm even thinking, Niamh, whenever you're saying I have the power to choose, I'm thinking more, you have the power to choose your thoughts. And that even it doesn't even need to be material things, or those physical decisions, that whenever we're talking about the mind chatter and everything we're saying to ourselves and all that comes into anxiety, there really is a lot about thoughts that impact feelings and behaviors, that really catching the thoughts is actually like the first step of it, right?
Yeah, definitely
flipping that script.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I do think that, like, I have a gratitude journal, and that really does help. Where you write down like things you're grateful for, like 5 things every day. So important. I set myself 5 because I'm like, 5 should be easy enough to do, just 5.
I do 5 as well.
So yeah, because I know some people do like a ridiculous amount. They do like 10 or 15 a day, and I'm like, that's crazy. Can't think of that many. But
I think some people do 3, some people don't do it at all. But from a lot of people that I've spoken to, a lot of the people who have been through things and done the work themselves, that is sort of like a communal thing that we all do, gratitude. And it's so important, Niamh. It's so important. I don't think people understand the power of it.
Yeah, because it shifts your focus. It's all about shifting your focus. If you're focusing on the negative and you're suddenly shifting your thoughts to thinking about things you're grateful for, it's very hard for you to be thinking about negative things when you're now being grateful.
Especially like if you're going to bed and you're sort of preoccupied over something that's happening the next day and you're feeling anxious, that actually getting out your gratitude journal and tapping into everything you're grateful for that day, that's a really powerful shift, and something you can go to bed, leave in peace and serenity, and actually have like a productive night's sleep, rather than just actually being consumed the whole night long over how anxious you are over this event.
I know. And you know what it is, like, I find that anxiety a lot of the time can be like a fear of fear, where sometimes you can just be anxious about worrying that you might be anxious. It's like you're anxious that you might be anxious when something happens. You're like, but You're
like
I'm just thinking,
whenever you actually check yourself what you're actually doing, you're like, seriously, I am wrecking myself here. What am
I'm
I
getting
even
anxious that I
doing?
might be anxious tomorrow. Like it's just so bad sometimes when you're like thinking about it. You're like,
I know,
am I
but like
actually that?
you have to actually laugh at yourself, you know, and I think your dad really encapsulates that quite well. And whenever you do get into a really downward spiral, like to just take that step back for yourself and think, right,
Yeah.
you know, and to really like try and move forward from it, because I think it can be so easy to just get stuck and stay feeling like you're going to be that way forever. But
Yeah.
it is possible to change. And I think that's really important to remind everyone at the end of the day, no matter how much you feel like you're struggling, that like you can actually be struggling and still achieve incredible things.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that, yeah, it does fuel me. It does fuel me
Yeah.
because if I didn't have, I wasn't driven by my anxiety, I definitely wouldn't be challenging myself as much. I wouldn't need to do as much self-work, and therefore I wouldn't be challenging myself as much, if that makes sense. Like
Do
I
you
really
think
do.
from having these diagnoses, it's been more of an encouragement to you to prove to others, to dismantle like the
Yeah,
stereotype as
I
well? So
think
like
I
you're
think
actually
so.
encouraged to show
Uh-huh.
up for others who have been, you know, given the same, and you're not willing to let that hold you back.
Yeah, I think it's like I do make it wrong. I do think to myself, it's so wrong that I am this way and people are gonna figure it out and people are gonna judge me for it and whatever. But
Yeah.
I do think that um because of it, like because I'm constantly having to catch myself, because I'm constantly having to be like, well, what's that thought and why did you think that? And maybe next time we'll do it this way. And actually, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to make you do something you're scared of. So I'm constantly doing things I'm scared of
Yeah.
on purpose. Um, to the point that I'm now doing things that, as you say, like normal people are scared of, but I don't really notice because I'm just constantly like pushing the limits and pushing the barrier and constantly like um
Yeah.
as soon as I tell myself no, I don't want to do that, I'm scared, I'm like, well, you're definitely doing it now. So
Yeah.
that's just like
That is
so
so that you're actually catching yourself, and that's so powerful. And I know my words don't really mean anything, but like I just want to remind you, like, you know, it doesn't make you a wrong person or it doesn't make you a flawed person. And that is actually, you know, completely flawed to think that way. And you know, I wish that you didn't think that it made you know, or that it was like wrong. But you know, like I feel like it's a superpower, and it actually has, you know, made you into like a real Wonder Woman and like massive achiever. And you know, to really have seen, like I think you have actually recognized yourself and pointed out like all the actual strengths that the qualities of having OCD and anxiety has actually afforded you and brought you in your life. So like I don't see it as being, from learning from your experience, I don't see it as being, obviously it has been challenging in ways, I'm not taking that away whatsoever, but that you've actually really used it as an empowering thing for you, and that's all on you.
oh, thanks so much. And you know, it's mad because I know you said like your words don't mean anything, but for me, because of my OCD, I
Yeah.
remember every single word said to me by every single comment, every single person. And there's like every word means so much. Like I remember all the good words, I remember all the bad words. Like I'll always remember this conversation like forever. Like, and people will say to me, oh, you've such a great memory, but it's only because I really have a thing for like focusing on words and memorizing them. It's just
Nave, I have never been diagnosed with OCD, but I have a photographic memory for every single experience of my life in extreme detail. So
yeah,
I will also remember every
yeah.
word of this conversation and experience. And I think that can be incredible in so many ways, like has got me through exams. And you know, it's amazing to be able to recount memories to friends that they've forgotten about, but you know, that you
They think
kind of
you're
don't want
weird.
to
They're like,
remember
how do you remember what
problems
I
as
was
well.
wearing? It's I get it all the time where it's like I was actually with two friends last night that I haven't properly went a night out with in like 15 years. And I was kind of like, oh, do you remember when we were like 6 and we were running down the hill? And they were like, how do you remember these details? I almost felt like I wanted to hold back on like too many details because they were looking at
I
me
know.
like,
They actually think like, oh my goodness, so she had like a camera on her whole life. I know my
yeah,
friends do actually think I'm completely crazy. Like the things you remember. So it is like I think that's really like so many people struggle with their memory need. You know, they can't
yeah.
remember anything.
But I
And
think
you're
that
such
probably,
remembering everything in so much detail.
yeah. But I think for me, it's probably going back to like, it's the same as like my checking. Like I'll check things twice. So like, after this conversation, unknowingly, I'll be getting on with my work, but I'll probably have this entire conversation back to myself in my head.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
here I am so grateful and thankful for your time. And I feel like we could chat all day here about this. And it's now 2 o'clock. So thank you so much for your time. And do you want to share like where people can find you actually, for connecting with you further online?
Yeah, so it would be, well, Neve Macaulay on LinkedIn, or purple.media on Instagram, or purple.co.uk for any
Fabulous.
videos.
Well, thank you so much. And I will chat to you again very soon. It's been
Perfect.
really
Thanks so
lovely
much,
chatting
Emily.
to you.
Yeah, you too. It's been great.
I know it's nice to have just like a little girly chat about like deep things, but having a laugh about it as well, right? I think that's what we need more of.
Yeah, not like getting too stuck in it.
No, it's nice to be able to bring a positive light to these things, rather than making it all like, oh, doom and gloom, because
Yeah.
obviously it is challenging, but we've come through it, and we're still fighting and doing our best and that's all we can ever do, like.
Yeah. And like obviously, you're pushing to do your best too. So it's your superpower as well.
Oh, thank you, Nate. That's so kind. But I do hope you have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, I just feel really blessed to have had you on. And like, I am really privileged that you took the time to share today.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. And thanks for being so vulnerable and open and having me, feel like I wanted to write to you to acknowledge you. So I think it's like
And that's how people will see you as well. Do you know that you have
yeah.
had the courage to actually share something that maybe you felt has been like a shortcoming or something you should hide from others, that actually putting that out there, like there's so much strength and power in that people will really like. I don't know if you've heard, your vulnerability is your superpower, really, that by actually sharing these things, that's what connects us as human beings, that you're not on some pedestal and you're actually a normal human being just living your life, and you're learning through all these things you've been through.
Yeah, and it is bizarre when people say to me like, "Oh, you're so confident." And I'm sort of like, because like when I see your post, I'm like, "Wow, she's so confident, she's so courageous. Like, how is she doing that?" So when people say it to me, I'm a bit like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I think
I know.
especially your own
Funny
worst
how you put
critic.
others on a thing, but then you don't actually recognize that others
Yeah.
see you as that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I would definitely see your post as like way more courageous than mine. Like I'm just putting out content.
It is really funny, how, the descriptors and sort of things that we see as being really powerful, as being less for us, but heightened for others.
Yeah, I know. I think we both need to take a step back and like look in the mirror.
Literally going right out like, a list of our 10 biggest achievements and be like, yeah, we're actually doing all right as well. Never mind other people telling us. But it is always nice to have that sort of support and cheer from others as well, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You need it.
Gives you a wee boost that you maybe need.
Yeah. No, you definitely need it.
And thank you so much for tuning in to another Time to Thrive Live episode. I really hope that if you are struggling with anxiety right now, this has given you some inspiration to really empower you to achieve against your anxiety too. If you did enjoy this, I'd really appreciate if you hit that little like button and subscribe to my channel. It's Amy Robb. And you can always leave a little comment. I love to connect. Don't be shy. As always, there'll be a challenge for you on my Instagram. And you can follow me there at Surviving Now Thriving. And you can always send me a message at any time if you're perhaps feeling like you could really benefit from more personalised support with your difficulties. So until next time, I'm sending you all my love.